Have you ever sat quietly in the late afternoon light, maybe by the window, with a cup of tea cooling in your hands and wondered, why don't they call anymore? Not with anger, not with blame, just a kind of ache, a silence that stretches too long, a phone that stays too still. You pick it up sometimes, just to check. Maybe the signal dropped, maybe the ringer was off, but deep down, you already know. They're not going to call today, or maybe not tomorrow. Either you raised them, you stayed up nights when they were sick, you cheered at their school plays, worried over their heartbreaks, worked hard to make life better than what you had. You remember their laughter as children, the way they used to come running into your arms. And now it's you who waits. For a call, a visit, a simple text, and the silence it starts to sound like something else. Like distance, like forgetting, like being left behind. You don't want to be bitter. That's not who you are. But the disappointment, it clings. And every time you tell yourself, I understand, they're busy, your heart whispers, but don't I matter too? This is something many won't talk about out loud, because it feels shameful somehow. Doesn't it? To admit that your children, the ones you gave everything for, barely reach out anymore. That you feel like a ghost in the background of their busy, shiny lives. But you are not a ghost. You are still here, still breathing, still full of love and wisdom and stories. And today, I want to talk to you as someone who sees you not with pity, not with advice, but with understanding, with honesty, because this is a wound so many carry. Quietly, and you deserve to know. You are not alone. I think of Helen when I talk about this. She's 71, widowed a few years back. Her son moved out west for work, promised to keep in touch, promised to visit when he could. The first few months, he called every Sunday, then every few weeks, then not at all. Helen kept telling herself, he's building a life, he's doing well. That's what I always wanted for him. But still, she checked her phone every morning. She left the ringer on at night. She even stopped making weekend plans just in case he called. It wasn't the silence that hurt the most. It was the way she began to question her own worth. Did I do something wrong? Was I too much? Is this what happens to all of us after 60? The truth is, no one prepares you for the loneliness that can settle in. Even when you've done everything right, no one tells you that raising children doesn't always guarantee closeness in the end. That you can pour your whole soul into a family, only to find yourself sitting alone with memories more present than the people they belong to. And yet, there's something else that no one tells you. Something even more powerful. That you can still live fully, even if they don't call. That your strength, your joy, your sense of self does not have to shrink just because someone else stopped showing up. There is a difference between letting go and giving up. Letting go means choosing peace over resentment. Letting go means remembering who you are outside of who you were to them. Letting go means understanding that their silence is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of their choices, their life, their journey. You don't have to carry their absence like a punishment. You can carry your presence like a quiet flame instead. Frank, 76, once told me, I spent a year waiting by the phone. Then I realized I'd forgotten how to live for myself. And so, he started small. He took himself out for breakfast every Thursday, wore his nicest sweater, sat by the window at the diner, and brought a book he loved. At first, it felt strange, lonely, but eventually, something shifted. He began to look forward to those mornings, not because someone else was going to show up, but because he did. That's what staying strong without bitterness looks like. Not pretending it doesn't hurt, but choosing to move anyway. Not closing your heart, but choosing to fill it with things that bring you light, even when others don't. You see, bitterness grows in silence that has no place to land. It feeds on what-ifs and why-nots. But when you speak your pain out loud to a friend, to a journal, even just in prayer, it begins to soften. When you stop expecting the call and start answering your own needs instead, something beautiful begins to happen. You remember that your story doesn't end because someone else stopped showing up in it. You remember that your life, this chapter right now, can still be rich with meaning. Helen eventually stopped leaving her weekends open. She started volunteering at the local library, helping children with their reading. One day, A little boy asked if she was someone's grandma. No, she said softly. But I've been one. And in that moment, she didn't feel forgotten. She felt full. Whole, because love never truly goes to waste. It just changes shape. Even when they don't call, you still matter. Even when they forget your birthday, you are still worth celebrating. Even when your phone stays silent, your life can still be filled with sound, with laughter, with music, with your own voice. Let that voice be the one you listen to now. Not the one that says, "You've been left behind," but the one that says, "I'm still here. I still have time. I still have me." There's something so deeply ingrained in many of us, especially those who came from a generation of responsibility, of keeping the peace, of never complaining, and it's this quiet, lifelong habit of blaming ourselves for the distance others create. You think, maybe I talk too much, or maybe I wasn't fun to be around, or maybe I did something they haven't forgiven me for. But what if it's not about anything you did wrong? What if this silence isn't personal? I want to tell you about Ethan. He's 72, with kind eyes and a heart so wide, it spills over into everything he touches. He spent most of his life doing things for others, his kids, his wife, his church. He was the one who fixed the leaky faucets, paid for summer camps when money was tight, and stayed up nights worrying when someone else was hurting. And now, his 3 children live in different cities. They send texts occasionally. Birthdays get acknowledged, sometimes. But real conversations, rare. Visits, even rarer. He told me once, "I feel like I gave them my whole life, and now they've moved on, and I'm standing here wondering if it mattered." But then he paused, took a long breath, and said, "Or maybe they're just living, and I'm the one who needs to catch up to my life again." That was the shift. Because so often, the pain we feel isn't just about missing someone. It's about what we tell ourselves the silence means, that we've lost importance, that we've failed in some invisible way. But what if the truth is simpler and softer? Your children might be busy, overwhelmed, distracted, immersed in their own messiness. And that doesn't mean they don't love you, but it does mean they might not be thinking of you the way you think of them. Not as often, not as deeply, not because you don't matter, but because life has pulled their attention elsewhere. That realization can sting, but it can also set you free. You do not have to keep measuring your value by how often your phone rings. You are not just a parent waiting to be needed. You are a person who still has breath in your lungs, stories in your heart, and a life unfolding right beneath your feet. And that life is still worth living fully, joyfully, even if no one else sees it in this moment but you. Margaret, who's 69 and lives just outside the city, told me that she stopped waiting for her adult children to visit. She used to bake every Sunday just in case someone came by. She'd set the table, pull out the good teacups, light the candle her daughter gave her years ago. Most Sundays, she sat alone. But one weekend, something shifted. She put the baking aside and joined a local art class instead. At first, she said she felt guilty, like she was choosing strangers over family. But week after week, she found herself smiling more, laughing again, using her hands to create instead of only to clean or cook. And slowly, that ache in her chest softened. She said, "I still wish they'd visit. But now I'm not putting my joy on hold, waiting for it to happen." That's what quiet transformation looks like. You stop tying your happiness to someone else's behavior. You stop holding your breath for someone else's attention. You stop apologizing to yourself for wanting more. And in that space between the letting go and the beginning again, something new is born. It's not bitterness. It's not loneliness. It's not denial. It's strength. Gentle, grounded, glowing strength. It's the strength that says, "I'm allowed to matter to myself." That doesn't mean you stop loving them. Of course not. You'll always love them. But love, real love, doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for someone who has chosen absence. It means holding that love in your heart while still living your life with dignity and light. Frank, who we spoke about earlier, once told me, "I realized I was waiting for the wrong thing. I was waiting for them to remember me, when what I really needed was to remember myself." And so he did. He pulled out his old guitar from the closet. It hadn't been tuned in years. The strings were rusted, the wood a little warped. But he cleaned it up, sat by his window, and started playing again quietly, at first, just for himself. One evening, a neighbor walking by stopped to listen. A few days later, someone dropped off a note. "Your music made my day." And just like that, he realized his voice still mattered. Even if his children weren't listening right now, someone was. He was. That's how you stay strong without bitterness. You shift the center of your universe back to your own soul. You stop waiting for someone to validate your importance and begin to validate it yourself with the way you live, the way you rest, the way you smile at strangers and say yes to new things. You begin again, not because you were broken, but because you are whole and simply ready for more. Even now, you might feel a tug in your heart, a sadness you can't explain. That's okay. That sadness is love with nowhere to land right now. But you can still carry it gently. You can still walk forward with that weight and say, "I matter. I'm still here. I'm allowed to live." You don't need to earn anyone's call to start feeling worthy again. You don't need to sit by the phone to be remembered by life. You just need to start remembering yourself. Something beautiful begins to unfold when you stop measuring your worth by someone else's absence. It's not sudden. It doesn't shout. But it starts in the quiet places, the way you wake up and no longer reach for your phone first thing, hoping for a message. The way your heart begins to beat, not with waiting, but with wonder again. And that's when the world shifts. You see, when you stop trying to be remembered and start living like you already matter, the energy around you changes. You move differently. You speak with more clarity. You make choices for yourself, not in rebellion, but in self-respect. That's what happened to Grace. She's 74, elegant in the way she carries herself, graceful, yes, but also quietly strong. For years, she tiptoed around her adult daughter's moods. When the phone call stopped, she told herself, "She's stressed. She'll come around." And then one day, out of the blue, her daughter called, not to ask how Grace was doing, but to borrow money, again. And for the first time, Grace said no. Not because she was angry, not because she wanted to hurt, but because she finally realized she was not a backup plan. She was not a safety net for someone who refused to stand on their own. She was a woman with her own needs, her own dreams, her own right to peace. She hung up the phone and cried, not because she regretted it, but because something powerful had broken open inside her. A lifetime of pleasing, of waiting, of giving without return. And in its place, something stronger rose up. Freedom. When you stop chasing love, something extraordinary happens. You make space for love to return on its own, unforced. That same daughter didn't call for weeks, but when she did, her voice was different, softer, less entitled. "Joachim," she said, "I miss you. Not I need you. Not can you help me. Just, I miss you." Grace told me. It was the first time in years I felt like she saw me again. Because that's the thing, when you stop letting yourself be taken for granted, the people around you feel the difference. They might resist it at first. They might test it. But eventually, they come to respect it. Or, if they don't, you still stand taller anyway. This is not about punishment. This is not about making them feel bad. It's about making you feel whole. Helen, the widow we met earlier, started going on morning walks again. She picked wildflowers and placed them in tiny vases around her house. She joined a small book club at the community center. She even started writing down stories from her childhood. Not for anyone else, just for herself. To remember, to honor her own voice. She told me, "The silence doesn't hurt the same way anymore. I'm not filling it with resentment. I'm filling it with beauty." That's the shift. When you stop hoping they'll come back and instead return to yourself, the healing begins, not all at once, but steadily, quietly, like a garden blooming after a long winter. And sometimes, unexpectedly, others begin to notice. Frank, remember him? The one who picked up his guitar again. One afternoon, his daughter stopped by unannounced. She stood at the door, listening to him play. "I forgot you used to do that," she said. "I forgot too," Frank replied. "But I'm remembering now," and that's when the tears came. Not because of sorrow, but because of restoration. Not because she finally showed up, but because he no longer needed her presence to feel like himself. You see, when we stop waiting for others to remind us who we are, we become unshakable. we become radiant. We become grounded in something no phone call can give us, and no silence can take away. You don't have to stop loving them. You just have to stop disappearing in the spaces where they don't, because your joy, your interests, your laughter, they are not just background noise to someone else's story. They are the music of your own. Go sit in the sun. Wear your favorite color just because it makes you feel alive. Eat something delicious and don't save it for company. Smile at strangers. Join the class. Visit the garden. Reread the book that once made you weep. You're not waiting anymore. You're living, and that's the kind of presence that can call people back. Not through guilt, but through gravity. They may call, they may not, but your life keeps unfolding either way, and maybe one day, when they do call, they'll hear something new in your voice, not desperation. Not quiet sadness, but lightness. Not because you've hardened, but because you've healed. Because you've remembered the truth that so many forget. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You only need to stand firmly in your light. If you're still here with me, if you've made it through this conversation, with your heart open and your spirit steady, I want to thank you truly. Thank you for your courage, because it takes a different kind of strength to face the silence without becoming cold. It takes grace to feel forgotten and still choose to show up with warmth. It takes wisdom to realize that love doesn't always return the way we give it, and yet we keep loving anyway. Not to earn anything, but because it's who we are. And if any part of what I've said spoke to something deep inside you, please know that part of you is sacred. The part that still hopes, the part that still hurts, the part that still believes you have more life to live. Maybe you haven't said it out loud, but I wonder if you've carried this question in your chest for a long time. Do I still matter if they don't call? Let me answer that as clearly and softly as I can. Yes, yes, you matter. You matter in your laughter, in your wisdom, in the way you care for the small things, the flowers you water, the birds you feed, the friend you check on, the stories you still carry in your bones. You matter because your presence still brings light into the world. Whether or not anyone else notices it today, and just because someone has drifted away, that doesn't mean you've become less. It simply means they're walking a path you can't control. But your path still stretches wide and full of possibility. You are not just someone's parent. You are not just the person on the other end of a phone they sometimes forget to dial. You are your own soul, a whole person, still blooming. So take your time, keep healing, and wherever you are physically, emotionally, I hope you know that you're part of something bigger than silence, bigger than absence. You are part of a quiet, beautiful rebellion of people who are choosing to live fully, even when the world forgets to watch. I'd love to hear from you. If this message stirred something in you, or even just helped you feel seen, would you share a piece of your story? Have your relationships changed as you've grown older? What's helped you stay grounded through the silence? There's strength in your story, and someone out there may need to hear it. Drop a comment below if you feel ready, or even just let me know you're here. And if this message gave you peace, if you felt a little less alone while watching, I would love for us to stay connected. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if it feels right. Not for me, but for us. For this space where voices like yours are valued, held, and never talked over. Because this isn't just a video, this is a conversation, and I hope it's only the beginning. You're not forgotten here. You're not invisible here. You are heard, you are honored, and you are deeply appreciated. So go gently into the rest of your day. Breathe deeply, walk slowly, and carry this with you. They may not call, but you are still whole, still worthy, still radiant, and you are still deeply loved. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.